Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. There we go. Okay, as we're getting everybody in, we're still doing some registration. We should be starting in the next 5 minutes. For those of you online, we'll be starting in about 5 minutes. We got a lot of folks coming through. Administrative. Again, social distancing enforced while we're here. If you're going to move around within the church, please put your mask on. As long as you're seated, I have no problem taking your mask off. The really important part, the bathrooms are right through the doorway right behind you, okay? So, any questions before we start? So excited that y'all are here. We'll go ahead and we'll do an introduction here in just a few minutes, and we'll get this going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hope Alliance Church and to our Homeschooling 101 meeting. I want to introduce Drew and Alicia Kelly. They are the head of...
Kelly.
Yeah.
Kelly and
Drew, Alicia.
There you go.
Kelly and Drew, Alicia. Yes. I'm sorry? Well, we'll find out. Let's go ahead and get this started. We do have some extra pens if you want to take some notes. We have them in the back. Raise your hand if you need a pen.
You will need them because it's also...
And with that, what I want to do, I'm Ken McDonald, I'm an elder here at Hope Alliance. I'd like to just open up with a quick word of prayer, and then we'll roll into this evening's activities. Dear Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for this opportunity to gather together to get the information that parents are looking for. So, Father, we pray that you would just be with us tonight, give us the wisdom and the discernment that we need to make the decisions that are best for our families. Father, we pray that you would just put your hand of blessing upon each and every one of us here tonight. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. And with that, Kelly and Drew.
Welcome. I'm Drew. This is Kelly. We are the Mohawk Valley LEA chapter leaders for the New York State LEA group, which covers, I can't even tell you, like 50-something groups across the state of New York. We are one of many. Go ahead and put me onto the next slide there. Oh, Aaron's not there. Can you give me the next slide? So, if anybody doesn't know what LEA stands for, it's Loving Education at Home. It's a Christian-based homeschool group. In order to join, you have to sign a statement of faith. That you don't have to agree with the statement of faith, but you have to sign it and know that the group is Christian-based and that is how the program is projected to all the children and to adults. So there's certain things that they don't accept, doctrine that they don't accept. So they just want to make sure that everyone knows that it's a Christian-based group. So next slide. The New York State LEA, if you want to jot these down, I don't believe they're in your packet. So on the very last page of your packet, there is a notes page I put in there. So you got questions or anything, you can write them down. But LEA.org is the New York State website. There's a ton of information there. And then the second one there, which is homeschool-life.com, then it's going to be /New York/MV LEA. That is our website for this group. That is where we do all our events, scheduling, and also where you sign up to become a member. Currently, we are still getting the PayPal situated so that you can pay for it online, but that is where we do all the initial paperwork. It used to all be handwritten and mailed, but we're still working on it's difficult with the treasurer because this PayPal requires these silly little things that I have to go back and coerce with the bill, and but we're getting there. So next slide for me. We've been leaders since 2015. A little bit about us. We've been married for 17 years, just yesterday. 5 children. We've graduated one, almost on to our second one next year. We've been doing it for 11 years. She's been doing it for 11 years. Next slide for me. So, this is my big warning. It's not for everybody. I know everybody wants to do it, but just be warned that it's not for everybody. Everybody loves their children until they have them there all day, every day. So, we just know it's not for everyone. And don't be alarmed if it's not for you. It's not, so when I was growing up, if you had said, I don't even know what the word homeschooling meant, until we met a few select people. But just be warned that I shouldn't say warned, but don't be discouraged if it's not for you. It is and it isn't. So next slide for me. Another thing we like to tell everybody is this phrase: that's homeschooling is not school at home. So leave the thought behind of when you were in elementary school and high school and how the day went and how everything went. That does not mean that's how it has to go at home. You do not have to have 9 periods. You do not have to do every subject for 39 minutes and go to the next one, and etc. It's very, very controlled by you. You can do as you wish, as long as you meet these certain requirements. Go ahead to the next one. before you begin homeschooling, you always got to know what your why is. Whether it's faith-based, whether it's health-based, what are some, whether, are you keeping your kids home because you don't want them experiencing the day-to-day public school life? Are you keeping your kids home because they're special needs and they need extra help that they're not getting, or you feel they're not getting? Are you keeping them home because of illness, or out COVID things that you're keeping them home? You always got to know your why, because when you get all frustrated and they're not doing their schoolwork or things aren't going the way you want to know, you got to always go back to that why to reassure yourself, so that you're not encouraged or write it down and keep it in a notebook, so when you're crying in bed one night, you know what to go back to, because you will be crying in your bed one night. So go ahead with the next slide. So it's just a note that I know everybody's going to have questions. We've done this numerous times, and we tend to get lengthy because we've answered questions in the middle of there. We've always been in a more, a smaller setting. We've usually done this at the New Hartford Library. There might be 15 people, max usually. We fit in a little tiny meeting room. This is beyond, we've had an astronomical amount of people respond to this. And there's probably just as many as people are here are watching from home right now. So it's quite a big jump this year for obvious reasons. But a lot of your questions, more than likely, are going to be answered through the program. So if you do have a question, jot it down on that note sheet, and then when we get to the end, there'll be a spot for all of us to go through. We'll ask all the questions you had. Okay, go ahead, next one. So starting in your packet on the very first page, this is all fill in the blanks. This is the nuts and bolts. This is the this is all the stuff you gotta know, the stuff that, there's usually no way around it. So this is the New York State regulations for homeschooling. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to start section 1, attendance. So you'll want to write these down as we go through. But the compulsory age is 6. That is on or by, I should say, December 1st. So you typically remember that you could register your children for kindergarten at 5, sometimes now I think 4, 4, almost 5, depending on the day. Technically, this is quote-unquote first grade age. So you do not need, in New York State, to send in any information, even tell them that you're homeschooling until they are first grade age. So technically, New York State does not recognize kindergarten as a recordable grade. Excuse me. Next one. So there is no academic requirement. Actually, I just got ahead of myself, didn't I? Until first grade or age 6. Let me know if I'm going too fast for everybody writing. I don't have to write it down, so I don't. So, now for grades 1 through 6, you are required to provide 900 hours per year. That sounds like a lot, but it's really not if you divide it out by days and hours, which equals 225 plus hours per quarter. This will make more sense when we get into writing your quarter reports and things like that. Now, grades 7 through 12, you are required to provide 990 hours per year, which equals 250 plus per quarter. Huh? For that, yeah. The school year begins July 1st and ends June 30th. Not your typical September to June. Because we use, in homeschooling, you use the entire year. A substantial equivalent 180 days of instruction, which is pretty similar to public school. Everything is school. When I say that, I mean you doing your yard work outside. That is physical education. You go to the grocery store and you let your kids handle the money. That is math class. That everything you do in life is home education. So don't think that it's got to be out of a curriculum, out of a book. Everything we do, we're teaching our children every minute. So everything. But those 3 blanks are for you to fill in. There's nothing in those blanks, but we do swim class in the summertime. That counts. You can write that down. Everything, soccer, any physical activities, any math, anything. It's all. Yep. Farm chores if you got farm or yard work. Okay, next slide. So the notifications that you have to make. Parents need to send what is called a letter of intent by July 1st of each school year. Don't get scared, because I know it's past July 1st. Or within 14 days of commencement of homeschooling. So that means if you start homeschooling today, you have 14 days to advise the school that you're going to be homeschooling. And we'll get into examples of all this after we get through these fill in the blanks here. The school district should respond within 10 days.
Reiterate that.
Yeah.
What's that little part right there?
Just a top piece.
Yeah, that's enough.
So now, with a letter of intent, this is not on your screen here, but as you send out your letters of intent and your IHIPs, which are your individual home instruction plan, and anxiously wait for your school to respond, please keep in mind that the school district does not approve it or deny it. They simply only have the right or to legally to acknowledge that it's correct. So, example, you send in your IHIP, they can't send you a letter back that says you can't homeschool. The only thing they can tell you is that either you left out information or it sent them the wrong information or something to that nature and ask for corrected information or additional information. They cannot deny you to homeschool. So, next slide here. So, my famous statement, it's hard to see up there, but it's on your paper. Keep it short. Keep it simple whenever you're writing anything to send in. No more than 1 page. I always keep the KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't get overwhelmed that you have to put a ton of information down. Parents should send IHIPs by August 15th or within 4 weeks of receiving your regulations from the school district, whichever is later. The school then has 10 days or by August 31st, whichever is later, to notify you that you are compliant. And that is all that they can do, is notify you that everything you sent them complies with regulations. And I will add in there that sometimes the school district does not know the regulations. They will try and tell you the regulations. So I suggest that you go on New York State LEA's website and download those regulations. It may be a little nerve-wracking, but well, yeah. So where did I leave off? IHIPs. IHIPs should include the following: your name, or excuse me, the student's name, age, and grade level. List of syllabus, curriculum materials, textbooks, or a plan of instruction for each subject. And also, you have to include in your IHIP your dates of submission of your quarter reports. Next slide. Oh, is anybody missing? I didn't get ahead of myself. Everybody's still writing? If you need something, just raise your hand if I'm going too fast. Quarter reports. Again, keep it simple, keep it short, no more than 1 page. The quarter report should contain number of hours of instruction per quarter, not per subject. A brief description of material covered in each subject, and then a grade in each subject, or a written evaluation of the child's progress. In the third quarter, inform your district what annual assessment you will use. Either a standardized test or written narrative. Okay, your annual assessment must file at the time of your fourth quarter report. A written narrative evaluation may be used in grades 1 through 3. And in grades 4 through 8, a written evaluation may be used every other year. Most families test in grades 5 and 7. And the reason I will say that is because if you pay attention to the numbers 4 through 8, if you test in grade 4, that means you have to buy 3 tests. If you test in grade 5 and 7, you only buy 2 tests. So you save yourself 1 test if you test in grades 5 through 7. It's only saying that you have to do it every other year. So if you start with a written narrative in 4th grade, then you're only buying tests twice. Then you test yearly in grades 9 through 12. A composite score, which is when you get your results back, it'll give you results for each subject, and then at the bottom it'll give you what they call a composite score. It has to be 33% or above on a standardized test, and the composite score is the only thing needed to send to the school. You can either copy and paste whatever you get from your testing agency or your testing company and block out all the other numbers. The school does not need to know what your child got in every subject. The reason for that is too much information for the school. It overloads them, and then they get sidetracked. And I find that too much information to the school just starts to create problems. It's better to have too little and them to ask for something than to give them too much, because then they start requesting that from everybody. And it hurts everyone, because if they start making everybody require more things, it snowballs down the line. Next slide. So some resources. One of the most beneficial resources, like I mentioned earlier, is the Regulatory and Informational Manual for Home Education in New York. And it's found right on the New York State LEA website. Now, one other thing, during one school year, between grades 1 and 8, you are required to cover New York state history. And we've put in there that we have found good luck with Around New York in 80 Days or A Becca's State Report book.
It's typically done in fourth grade.
Yeah, it's typically done late elementary, fourth grade-ish. That's all the nuts and bolts stuff. Your next page is going to be your, where is it?
Richmond over on that packet.
Yeah, it's right here. I thought. No, this is all the extras. Well, it doesn't matter. It looks a little funny because of the way I had to import it into the slides. It's not the whole thing. You'll see the rest, the bottom half. You have, the people here have it all in one sheet, but for those of you at home looking at this, you'll see the rest of the page on the next slide. But this is your letter of intent. This is the first thing that you need to send to your school district. It needs to be one per child or per student.
No, they don't want to say.
Well, you can, yes, I take that back. You have to put each child and their birth date on. Oh, yeah, it does show up there. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So go back one slide for me. Yeah. So you put your name, etc. on the top. You always include that and the date. Make sure it's dated. Send it to your superintendent. Some school districts require, you'll send it to your superintendent and they'll send you something back that says, please send all further correspondence to, I think it's BOCES, and they'll give you some information. That is true. Send that to whatever they tell you to send it to, but also know that you want to, even it may annoy them, but send it as well to the superintendent. Because according to New York State regulations, all the paperwork needs to go to the superintendent of the schools. So to cover your own butt, you need to make sure that it gets to them as well. Even though they may not process it, but gosh forbid if something happened down the line, you can say that it was sent to the superintendent. So if your school district ever does require you to send it to somewhere other than the school, send it to both. So this next one is the IHIP, which is your individual home instruction plan. Again, name, date. The IHIP is going to be for each individual child. That's maybe where I got confused. So there's one individual home instruction plan per student, including their date of birth and grade level. It says dates for submittal of quarter reports. These are our suggested dates because they cover 12 months of the year. You can put whatever dates you want on there, but be known that you would limit yourself in time. So you still have to do those 180 days or those 900 hours. So if you go and put those dates up as typical school dates, you know, whatever they are, I don't know what they end up landing on. But if they were typical, 10-month instead of 12 months dates, you lose 2 months of time to get rid of all the schoolwork. So at least now you have 12 months to do school. We typically do school in probably 8 months, 9 months, excuse me, starting in August, end of August, sometime end of August, and we're done by May. So kids are really, this year's been kind of wacky, but we still keep those dates. Even if you are instructing the kids before those dates or after those dates, you still send them in then. So our first quarter report goes in September 30th. Most of the schools think we're crazy because they've only been in school 2 weeks when they get their first quarter report, but we've been doing school since July. So that gives you all year to do your schoolwork. You're not stuck at doing it in the same, again, like I said before, don't think of it as school at home. Think of it as life at home. But these dates give you more time to get all those hours in of schoolwork. And then you just go down per subject. Very, very simple. Write the subject, what type of curriculum you're using. It doesn't have to tell, you don't even have to tell them the grade level. You could say math you're using, in this particular thing, it's a curriculum called Math UC. There's a few other ones. But you don't even have to tell them, okay, we're using Math UC grade 7, or we're using Saxon 9, or whatever number. You just tell them what curriculum you're using. You don't even need to tell them the grade level. But every grade level that's required, or excuse me, every subject that's required, and then what you're going to use. And you do not have to get super specific, just the title of the curriculum. So where's a good example? Like spelling power. There's a whole bunch of different versions and grade levels and things like that. But you see there, they just write spelling power, and I don't even know if you really have to do that, where it's who it's made by. But it's as simple as that. You do not need to get elaborate. I can't stress that enough, that you do not need to syllabus. Some people have sent in 10-page IHIPs, and not only does it confuse the school district, but the school district is then going to expect to see all that stuff in some sort of written format through your quarter reports. And then next slide is the bottom half, but like I said, it just says continue the same information. You don't add that to your IHIP. That's for you to see, to know that if there's any additional subjects that you're doing, that you include those on here. So any and all subjects that are required, and then you sign it. This day and age, most school districts will accept it via email. So we type this up. You can get samples from New York State LEA. You can get samples from HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense. They have ones that you can just fill in, but we just did this up on the computer and kind of copied it. The school will also send you one. I take it and round file it, toss it. You do not have to use whatever they send you, because theirs usually asks for a lot more information than you need to give them. So we make this up on the computer. This is almost exactly what ours looks like. Obviously just changing the information. And we just do it every year. I just copy and paste it in there and change the dates and change the curriculum, and we go from there every year. Oh, thanks. Next slide for me. So a quarter report. Same thing with the quarter report. I make this up on the computer and I copy and paste it every year. But you need to send these in by those dates that you put on your IHIP. And I always put the date that we're submitting it on top. You have to tell them which quarter. And hours of instruction. You have to include the grade and the hours of instruction. Don't think that you have to keep a notebook of every hour you've schooled. Do not do that. You pull your hair out. That number, 225, which is on your regulations, is exactly what we put there. Add the plus mark, and that's exactly the way it reads on mine. I don't keep a timed track of how many hours and what everybody's done. We just include that on the IHIP as it sits. So we basically take that. Yeah, that is ours, minus the kids' names would be above, would be in there, where it says Jill Homeschool or whatever. But, as long as everybody's name, date of birth doesn't need to be on there. Name and grade and the hours of instruction. And you also have to include that sentence underneath the hours of instruction. Make sure you include that, star that, make sure that's in there. We have completed at least 80% of planned material, which is whatever you put on your IHIP. And then just go subject by subject, writing out what you've done in that subject. So, on our IHIP, we told them for math we were using Math UC. That was the curriculum. Now we're going to tell them what we were doing in that curriculum. So for this quarter, say we're going to tell them we did chapters 1 through 8, and it's doing multiplication and division. Nothing more than that. You don't need to know, you really don't even need to put the multiplication and division. Just tell them, how much of that curriculum you've done, and then a grade for that subject. This is all your idea of the grade. You can grade it however you feel. Elementary up till what grade can you use a number?
6th grade I changed.
Yeah. Up till 6th grade, you can use the old-fashioned satisfactory, non-satisfactory, whatever those S. That suffices per New York State until 6th grade. Then after that, you got to use a letter grade. And then, like it says on the bottom, you don't need to include this. Oh, sorry, it's on the next slide. So you don't need to include that sentence there. That's for you to see. But just continue that list: math, reading, English, etc., for any subjects that you are doing or that you've reported for. Yes. Yeah, similar to like college credit. Yeah, you can use a 1 through 4 system. But that's very simple. If you got any questions, we can answer those at the end here. The next slide. Yep. This is an old one. I apologize. I'm going to say right off the bat, ixnay this thing that says New York State Certified Educator. Scratch that whole thing off the top. I just didn't have time to make a new one. You do not have to have a New York State Certified Educator come and evaluate your child. You are your child's evaluator from grades 1 through 12. New York State does not require that. I didn't want this letter to confuse you. After I'd already printed it and got it in the packets, I realized that it shouldn't be there. But other than some of the statements there, you get the idea of what your letter should state. This is for your fourth quarter, or within your fourth quarter report, if you're doing a written narrative, or written evaluation, I should say. Minus the stuff that says you interviewed him and examined his portfolio, etc. And then you'll notice on the very bottom of that is one of those, if you could go to the next slide for me. That last sentence, you don't have to do that word for word, but 3 of the words, academic or adequate academic progress, must be in that letter to progress into the next grade level. Yep. You need to submit, whenever you submit your quarter report, your fourth quarter report, on the years that you're going to do a written evaluation, they need to be submitted together. Next slide for me. Yours in your packet here, this next page looks different than the slide. Again, for the ones that people have here is a little easier to read. This is all written in sentences, but it's all the exact same information.
They might have this next one.
What?
You guys have this one next.
Oh, skip it, sorry. I'm in the wrong order. We'll go back to that one. The one that it should say grades 1 through 6, 7 and 8, 9 through 12 on the top. Look like this. Three columns. Yep. So these are the courses or classes, however you want to call them, that are required through New York State per grade level. So in grades 1 through 6, you have to do arithmetic, English language, spelling, reading, writing, history, geography, science, health, music, visual arts, physical education, and a foreign language if needed. Then we go to 7 and 8. In 7 and 8, you have to have 2 units of English between 7 and 8, not in each grade. So as 7 and 8 as a whole, so you need 2 units of English, 2 units of history/geography, 2 units of science, 2 units of math, phys ed, health, half of art, half of music. So now when you see these units, the units equate
It's up here.
to 6,480 minutes is a unit, but it is also equated to 36 minutes per. You want to note that. So when it says 2 units for grades 7 and 8, typically you would think 1 per each grade level. So in 7th grade you might do 1 English, 1 history, 1 science, 1 math, phys ed, health. And then where the difference is down here where art and music, because it's only a half credit. So technically within grades 7 through 8 in New York State, you only have to do 1/2 unit of art and music between those 2 years. So you can do your half unit in 7th grade and not in 8th. You can not do it in 7th and do it in 8th. It's your choice. Then grades 9 through 12. Same concept here. English, 4 units. Math, 2 units. So you'll notice there's 4 years to complete. You only need to do 2 units of math in 4 years. 2 units of science. 4 units of social studies, consisting of 1 unit of American history, half a unit of government, and half a unit of economics. And then you can supplement the other 2 units. 1 unit of art and or music, half a unit of health, 2 units of phys ed, and 3 electives. Those are your requirements in New York State to graduate.
With that being said, any of you parents that have high school students coming home this year, most of those units probably have been covered already. So you do not have to do them again at home. So if your kid's already taken 9th and 10th grade math, and you're bringing them home in 11th grade, you're done with math, unless you decide that you want to up your minimum requirements for your own kids, which some colleges require more math or more science. But just take that in note that you don't have to do more if they've already gone through.
Where? Oh.
If I knew, I would tell you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I usually use it as like
Art is, we've always considered art as art, so I don't know what that, to be honest with you.
like home economics.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's supposed to, technology type stuff, I think, is what practical arts is, if I remember correctly. Good question. These 3 lines underneath, if you're looking there, it says, taught once during the first 8 grades. So any time between 1st and 8th grade, you need U.S. history, New York State history, the Constitution of the U.S., and New York State. The units required are cumulative. Oh, that's for that one. I'm sorry. That's cumulative, that's cumulative. Okay. And then on the very bottom, for those here, required to cover during grades K through 12. So that's any time between 1st grade and 12th grade. Patriotism and citizenship. Health education regarding alcohol, drug, and tobacco misuse. Highway safety and traffic regulation, including bicycle safety. And fire and arson prevention and safety.
Again, if your kids were in public school, most of that's already been covered.
You know, and think practically for those, you know. Health education regarding alcohol, drug, and tobacco. It is as simple as sitting down on a couch and having a discussion. You do not have to buy a curriculum about alcohol and drug tobacco misuse. Get a book at the library about it and read it. Same with fire and arson. Fire departments are always more than welcome, or more than willing to give tours and give speeches about fire and arson awareness. I know our fire department does it once a year, so you know, there's, you know, reach out to them for those type of things. Okay, so for those of you here, you go back a page. When you need to do standardized testing in those years we spoke of, these are the New York State approved standardized testing. The Iowa test, the CAT test, the SAT test, comprehensive test. These are all acronyms. The MAT test, it's all. The state education has one, and the other one, the last one that's is the PASS test. Personally, we use the CAT test every year because it's the easiest format. Just know that once you pick one, they all present their questions differently. So if a child has a hard time with one test, maybe try a different test the following time or something. But some of them are timed and some of them are not. I know for us, the CAT test is not timed, and we can, yeah, you can have it timed, but if you wanted to. But yes. It is not required for New York State. No, foreign language.
It's actually, that is an elective.
Yeah, you could use it as, that's why it says if, when needed. So you can use it as an elective. Yep. I think, have I got more slides? Is that the last? No,
You've got more stuff.
what's my next slide there? Okay, so some more information. Might want to write down that address, HSLDA. especially with new times coming up and an influx of people using or starting to homeschool, I should say, this is a very good money well spent. If you were to pay it straight out of pocket from just going to their website, it's $130 a year, school year. If you become members of LEA, there is a discount. It's either 10% or $10. I can't remember what it is to be exact, but you get a discount off of that price. But homeschool legal defense, in my opinion, I hate to go drastic, but gosh forbid, you got into a battle with government or the school or something, and they tried to tell you you couldn't homeschool or you weren't doing something right or wanted to take your kids away, that kind of drastic, far left idea. This is where these people are worth their money and their weight in gold, because for your $130 that you paid a year, you have unconditional legal defense. And this is all they do, is homeschool legal defense. Amongst the legal defense that you think of in courtrooms, they also are, they have on their website, they have all kinds of stuff that is homeschool related. They will help you make sure your forms are legal and ready to go. There's unlimited counseling. You can talk to them via their website and talk to them on the phone. It's all included in your yearly membership. Nothing that they do is additional above and beyond their membership cost. So it's pretty simple. It's hslda.org. Next slide for me. So now I know there's going to be some. So I don't know if I put anybody on the spot here, but I don't know if anybody would be willing to share what their why is, why they're here today, why they want to start homeschooling. We already know your why. No. Yeah, is it you waving your hand?
Really? I'm not loud enough? The foundational concepts of adding and subtracting. So they wanted to give her a calculator. And my husband, who is supportive but not really involved in homeschooling, at that point was like, we're pulling her out and we're homeschooling her. And so since March, she's now doing second grade math and adding, subtracting thousands. And so she's making major progress that she would not have made in public school. So that's kind of for our reason of homeschooling her. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
This may seem a little strange because I am a public school teacher, a certified teacher. I taught Spanish, I taught reading to elementary, and I just recently went back as an ESL teacher. But since the situation that we like to call it has happened, I feel that our particular public school has kind of dropped the ball for my kids. I'm really, really disappointed. I am going to go back to work full-time, and I'm going to homeschool our youngest full-time. She's going to be in 8th grade. The older one will be a senior. She's kind of just rolling, coasting to the end. But I'm really disappointed in what happened when the kids went home. they've been talking about pandemics for years. There should have been a plan in place in the first place. I sit in many times have sat and listened to our, invader plan of the school and how you get out of the school and what room you go into and where we have to lock down. But look what happened here. They went here. Here's 4 platforms that you need to search for, play with, and then I'm going to email you and your parents every single solitary day and tell them how terrible you're doing. And I am done. I'm not doing it with that anymore. I want my child to have meaningful education. I want her to be loved. I want her to feel included. I want her to feel like she matters, and she just got dropped. I did my best as an ESL teacher to stay in touch with my students last year, but my school districts didn't make it really possible for me. And the students were sleeping all day, and they weren't doing what the schools kind of wanted them to do, and I would call their homes, and they would be sleeping, or they didn't want to come to the computer. So I'm not really I sound angry, I know. I'm not angry, I'm just sad for our public school students who maybe aren't the norm and can't just sit and do it themselves. Our daughter isn't a self-motivated learner like that. We have to engage with her. She follows me around, she's 13. Mom, what are you doing? Can I sit with you? I have to be with her all the time. So that's why mainly we're doing this. And we decided we'll do this as long as we need to. I don't think that, I don't want to go back because I think she's going to learn it. I love it. And we've already started our homeschooling. I just have to write it down. So
I'll note that they all struggle and squirm the very first year, especially if they've been public school children and students for some time. I mean, all the brand new kids, that have never been to school, it's just another day for them. But the ones that have been in, up till even some just early education, early elementary, they come out kicking and screaming because they're going to miss their friends. But our daughter was the same way. We pulled her in 3rd grade, and she graduated a year early, and has been on, gone on with her life, and other kids her age are just graduating. She's looks back at it now and thanks us. It's just they'll get over it. So don't get scared of the kids that are telling you they don't want to do it, because there's plenty of ways to get together with people nowadays. They have to worry about being in school for socialization. So. Anyway.
I know there's at least one family in here. My husband and I have homeschooled our kids for 27 years. When they get to be a junior and senior in high school, we let them go to college. Herkimer Community College will accept your kids, and we pay for it, but they go to college. So if I don't want to teach calculus, they can take calculus at the college. So when they graduate, my kids have come out with 30-some-odd credits, so they can go into college. When they graduate from high school, they already have college credit. So a lot of times it takes my child another year to finish and get an associate's degree. I know there is another family in here that likes to know, I know MV offers something, if you could talk about that.
Yep. Specifically, it's called College Connection through Mohawk Valley Community College if you're a Oneida County resident.
No, they have opened that up.
Oh, they have this year? Then it's which county?
Herkimer and Madison
Oh,
County.
Herkimer and Madison County. So if the 3 counties there. If you reside in a school district in those counties, then during your grades 11th and 12th, they give you 2 classes per semester. That includes summer semester. So spring, fall, and summer, you can do 2 classes. It's not credits, it's classes. So if the class is 1 credit or the class is 3, 4, 5 credits, it's per class. So they can go, and it's based off of their placement test, what classes they can take. So as long as they meet the requirements of the placement test. But you'll notice once you get into the homeschool community that, probably 80% of the homeschool community is above and beyond the placement of same age peers in public school. So everybody I know of, except for a select few, soar above that placement test. So they usually go in and be able to get anything that they, yes.
Can you, or any homeschooler, tell me what a typical day looks like for you? Like how many hours a day you,
What grade are you looking
Yeah,
first and fourth?
not very long.
2-3 hours tops?
Yeah,
I mean, even my high schoolers were only
two and a
maxed
half,
at,
2.5,
4
3 to 4 hours. Yeah, depends on what they're doing. If they get through it and they're not stragglers, most of the time kids are done lunchtime. It all depends on how you go about it. You can drag it out as long as you want, and you can get through it as fast as you can. That's where that statement of don't think of it as school at home. Get through you might get a curriculum. Say we use what's called Saxon math. It's a very traditional math curriculum, and it might have in the work section 30 problems, but we only have our kids do every other problem because I don't want to correct 30 problems. They're all repetitive, it's very simple. I don't want to have to correct it, so I don't have them do them all. And especially if they show that they're proficient in it. If you see that they're proficient in a subject, move on to the next section. They can go as fast through that or as slow as you need through that. I know Math UC is a what's the word I'm thinking?
mastery-based.
Mastery-based program. So you don't move on in sections until you've mastered the topic. So if they're doing division of decimals or something, until you've mastered that, and you move on to the next one. Whereas Saxon incorporates several different ones into each section. But it's all how you make it. Don't think that you got to be like school.
Like school.
It's having your child too. Like, sit back for a while and watch your child learn. No, I don't want to talk. I'm sorry. Oh wow, that's loud. I just want to say that, because my one child has some learning challenges and my other one doesn't, I would recommend you guys, because they're coming out of public school, to really just sit back and watch your child and see how they learn, because that is like getting rid of the public school mindset. And I think that, for my daughter, she's good anytime throughout the day. So I have 4 kids total. It's a nightmare, I know, but I have, they're crazy in age. So what I do is, my oldest is really good at doing it early in the morning. So I set his timer at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and he gets up and he gets his schoolwork done before the baby and the 2-year-old and the 9-year-old wake up. And most of his work is done by then. And then I have a chance to check it while he's watching the 2 and the baby. And then my daughter does it maybe around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. She's like, okay, I'm ready to do schoolwork. So it's, again, get rid of that public school mentality that you have to have a set schedule. It's really where is the best time your kid learns and what time. So with Harlow, I have to, my one with the learning challenges, I have to set a timer for her. So if she's doing math, and she struggles with math right now, but she's killing it too, I set a timer for 10 minutes. And so 10 minutes, she does whatever she's doing, and then you stop where that timer is, and then you take a 5-minute break. So just be lenient. It's like they said, it's all day. Schooling is all day. You're gonna meet that 225 hours easy each quarter, because you're doing it all day and you're learning all day. So just, like I keep telling my friends, get rid of that public school mentality and just enjoy your kids and let them learn.
The best part about homeschooling is they get to do it in their pajamas. I think most of my kids get dressed maybe once or twice a week. So,
Just from a legal standpoint,
Yep.
As taxpayers, what are we entitled to through the school, clubs, sports?
absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Keep paying your taxes.
You still pay your taxes and you get no relief. Depending on your school district, it is totally up to your school district. Some of them allow homeschool students to participate in some activities. I know, we've primarily been in Sequoia School District for our entire homeschool career, but and they don't allow us to do anything extracurricular type of stuff. Waterville School District, on the other hand, does allow homeschoolers to do some extracurricular activities, clubs, marching band. Yeah, I mean, this year is going to be different for everything, but you have to contact your school district and find out, because that end of it is completely up to the school district.
I have an 8th grader that has to take home and careers. Is there a curriculum for that, or is it like omelets, hamburgers, like cleaning?
Yeah,
Does that count?
that's basically home economics.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Great.
that's every day, have them make their own lunch. Yeah.
Wash the dishes, be the maid, sweep the floor.
You know, they're getting into things that, you know, you could, sewing and things like that, if mom or friend, you know, and you can go outside your realm, you know, bring in anybody that, you know, you have friends that are good at sewing or something, you know.
You know,
No.
see if she would tutor your kid in Spanish if that's what you needed. A what? Oh.
I was just going to say, because you were bringing up, since you're a taxpayer and all that stuff, they do, if you suspect your child has a learning difference, they do have to test your child
Yes, that's,
and offer resources.
yes.
So
If
that
you-
they
if
do
you
have to
ne- If
do.
you do have, say, let's, for example, you think there's dyslexia, you can take them to the school pays, has them tested, and will give you the results. You do not have to do what they tell you they come up with, but like our middle son has some dyslexia, and in order to get him into a program here, he had to be tested by the school. So that's basically a technicality, but they are required to test, and it shouldn't cost you anything, because you already pay for it.
I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
For progress sake, I have a kindergartner and a 4th grader this year. I know that for kindergartens, we don't have to submit IHIPs or quarterly reports, but if we want to keep it, just for progress sake, is it good to send those to the school, or are they just gonna reject
No,
them?
Do not send them
don't
to
send
school.
it.
Just keep them
them
at
for
home?
yourself.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
keep it for your own personal, you know, paperwork, but one, it's just going to confuse the school district, and two, if they start getting everybody to, it's going to mean that everybody's going to have to be required to do it, and it's one of those things where they're probably going to tell you, they may even send it back to you and tell you, we don't need it,
Okay.
but
For the
kindergarten, I wouldn't. I know everybody's thinking that, like typically, you know, you would register your children for kindergarten
Yes.
so that they know that they exist, basically, because they have no idea they exist until you register them. They don't need to know that information until next year.
So my daughter went through pre-K, so they pre-registered her for kindergarten. I
Yep.
included her in my LOI. Should I not have included her?
You
just don't wanna
could,
count her.
I suppose you could probably write to them or send them an email and tell them that you won't be including her till 1st grade when she, usually in things like that, I would get legal. I would say, per New York State regulations, I'm not required to submit any paperwork for her until she's 6, or they're 6. So in that case, I will not be submitting those this year. I will start submitting them next year.
Okay.
And then they should be sending you back and say, okay, because they probably didn't even pick up on it. So kindergarten in New York State doesn't exist. So I would just go with that.
My second question pertains to standardized testing and Common Core math. Are they test on the standardized testing? Is it Common Core or what is it?
No, it's mostly traditional.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you didn't run into any
Common
issues?
Core is public school.
Okay.
Boy, I tell you, it's public school pretty much primarily. All the standardized testing is going to be traditional math. We teach traditional math. Most of the curriculums that you will find are traditional math. So, and to be honest with you, traditional math works. So why get rid of something that worked? We'll remember. He's got the mic back there. We'll get him around. I remember. Go ahead. Oh. Mm-hmm. I don't know as though you can. I personally haven't seen any. I don't know if you searched that or not, if they would or not, but I've never seen a math curriculum that's Common Core. Yeah, if possibly, I mean, I know there's always that what if, huh?
Becky's got an answer.
Has she done Common Core math yet? Yeah. You'd be honest with you, if you picked a first grade math curriculum, and when she gets to school, it's probably gonna be leaps and bounds above what they're starting out at anyways. So, I mean, that's totally up to you. If it was me, I would probably just start them with a traditional math, and she'd learn it eventually. What's that? It is now? Is it? That's news to me, but if it is, I've never used it, but I suppose they're all probably starting to go on.
Drew, I'm going to have to intercede here.
Yeah.
For the folks online, if you are not on a mic, nobody can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
So, if you have the mic, you're the one who gets the question asked.
Gotcha.
With that.
We're going to go to the guy in the back here.
There you go.
I guess back to if you're a taxpayer, from the school district, what do you have availability to on products? That being like books, I guess, is really where I'm going with that. Classic literature and stuff do we have? I mean, you can use the library, we do and such, for great access.
As far as I know, like I said, if you can talk to your school districts, when it comes to things like that, all school districts are different, but primarily, if I had to say across the board, you're not going to get any help.
Typically, you're saying is like
Typically,
workbooks and worksheet
I've bought them all.
books and all that stuff.
I get them on Amazon Kindle and things like that. The library. It's just unfortunately, to homeschool, it's not the cheapest thing to do in most aspects. I mean, especially when you've got multiple children. But as years go on, you buy a lot for the first child, and then a lot of those things can get used. A lot of curriculums have consumables, so like you'll buy the textbook, but there'll be a workbook. That'll be where all the problem solving and stuff is, especially math and stuff. So all you got to do is buy the $7 to $10 workbook every year, but you still have the $40 textbook that you can pass down through all the children. But unfortunately, most everything you need to school your children comes out of your pocket. When it comes to schooling, they're not going to help you out because you basically took money out of their pocket. So they're not very lenient to giving out that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, you can do curriculum everywhere from free to spend a lot of money, because there's programs that let's take like ABECA Academy. I don't know if anybody's familiar with ABECA. They're a school in Pensacola, Florida. They have a live in-house school that's like a regular parochial or what's the word I'm thinking of? Private school. And you can go attend their school. They also have video program. So you pay like an astronomical amount of money, like $800 per child a year, give or take. and they can do a video course. But the problem is that is school at home, because they sit on a computer and watch a live classroom all day long. And we made the dumb mistake of doing it one year, and it cost me a fortune, and the kids hated it. I had to have 4 electronic devices that could all stream live video, and I had the biggest plan from Spectrum for Wi-Fi, and I think I paid $100 and something for the Wi-Fi, and then when it didn't work, it was a nightmare because kids are all sitting there not knowing what to do, but they hated sitting there just staring at a TV screen all day. And then you can go all the way back down the spectrum to free stuff online, free stuff at the library. You'd be surprised, you wouldn't think of it, but the library does have school books and curriculum on the shelf that you can take out.
I have 2 questions. One is I got back paper from Vernon, and they said the attendance is required at the quarterly report. Is that correct?
Attendance is required, but if you look on the quarter report, I suppose if they're telling you that they're requiring it, all you got to do is put on their days absent 0. It's according to New York State, it's not required. Even though they send you that, all you got to do, every time the school pushes back at me, go to that New York State regulations manual, print it out. You don't necessarily have to copy and paste them the whole manual because they have a manual. It's all lettered like a traditional legal document, parts 197.22 or however it reads. You could just say, per New York State regulations 192.77, I can do just days absent on my quarter reports. Thank you. Here you go, and send it off. A lot of times, like I said, the school district doesn't know it. And I don't know why some of them want to know all this stuff, but they don't need to know it. And the less they know, the better. Exactly. So what I would do in that situation is find that particular part in the manual and refer that in an email to them. If you want to suffice them, are they asking for it on a special form or something? Or?
Yeah, and it has all the dates and everything for the whole school year, which I already have my own calendar that I was going to use.
Yeah, so. That seems above and beyond for me.
Well,
according to them, you don't even need to put it on your quarter report. All you need is your hours of instruction. So if you've gotten the hours of instruction in, that would account for your attendance and
exactly.
all.
And then my second question is, can you kind of explain on the IHIP where you don't have an actual textbook, like you talked about home ec, how you're going to have them do things, or maybe an elective is electronics and you already know
So
somebody.
you're kind of talking about unschooling in a sense?
I guess, I don't know the word for it. Like, I'm not using a textbook for certain things, like maybe my one son learns at a different level and I'm gonna pick things from different internet things, but not an exact, curriculum. How do I word that for the IHIP?
You can just put on there various books, various activities, which may include but not limited, and maybe list 1 or 2 like websites, or maybe you were going to the library and you thought, we're going to read the book about George Washington today. So, you can just list that on your IHIP.
Yeah, I mean, it's a generic thing, but for physical education, for us, literally all we write is various outdoor activities. I'm not going to say lawn, raking the lawn, mowing the grass, picking weeds. It's just too much. Just various outdoor activities, whatever it may be that they're. Same thing. Various outdoor activities.
Hi. I feel like I read somewhere for reporting for high school. Do you have to report a little bit different in regards to the credit hours? Are you familiar with that?
The difference that I know of is the amount of hours. 9 through 12, 8 through 12.
High school is 9 through 12.
Yeah, 9 through
So
12, you got to.
That quarter report that you have in your hand, I submit that for my high schoolers. just like it sits.
Except the hours,
Obviously-
except the hours are different.
The hours I will change to 250.
250.
And then everything else is all the same.
High school, you gotta have that letter grade, letter equivalent grade. But just make sure you've got that 80% statement in there.
I'm not sure how many of you have high schoolers, but you do not get a diploma for your high schoolers. You can request a letter of equivalency from the high school, which my district has never given me an issue. I've graduated one, on my way to the next. I know the McDonald's have also gotten that letter of equivalency from 2 different districts. So it's there. You just have to ask your districts for it.
Most schools nowadays are accepting that to enter college. They're requiring that specific document, but it seems to be working for most everybody now. Where are we with that?
So my question, my son is going into kindergarten, and I know you've kind of said a few times it's not required. My school district is Utica, and they've said that they mandate it as a district. So I don't really know how to maneuver that, I guess, kind of after hearing all this.
You're the second one to say that. Somebody else the other day said that to me. Yeah.
I would send them an email, again, just like we had told her over here, per New York State's 100.10.
The other question, the other thing I might say is that is where the $130 HSLDA membership comes in handy, because you get to call them or email them, and you get to talk. I mean, you literally talk one-on-one with we know a couple of the lawyers there that are specific. There's 2 guys that are specific to New York State that know all New York State laws, and that's where you get, when you get these things in the mail from the district that don't make sense, you call them and they will say, this is what you should do, or he will send you a mock-up or a letter to send them, or sometimes I've heard that they will actually contact the school district for you, and and tell them this is not required, and what they need to do. So it's like I said, it's worth your weight in gold with that membership. So I highly suggest that to everyone considering this.
And for homeschooling, is there a way that if you were trying it and you said it's not for you, like if I tried it and then in 2 months I'm like, this is terrible, or he's not learning,
You
can
call
they
the school
switch?
and the bus will be there the next day.
Okay.
Yep.
Drew, I got one question from online. Just wanted a clarification. Within how many days after receiving the regs from the school district do they have to submit their IHIP? I know we covered that early, but I couldn't remember it off the top of my head.
August 15th or 4 weeks from the time that you receive the information from the school,
So
whichever is later.
So August 15th or 4 weeks from the date they received the information from the school.
Whichever is later.
Okay. Next question.
I was looking for
That's your
that
phone,
thing.
that's what it is.
I was looking for the kindergarten thing.
So I just have a concern about the, I don't know if it's what you call tuition or how you, I've heard that there's an not astronomical, but it costs thousands of dollars, so
Thousands? No. Gosh, I'd be broke.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's true. So what?
There's people very frugal that I know get it done for, they've had all their kids done for a couple $100, and then people who can spend over $1,000. But
Where do the fees come from, I guess, then is the question.
fees what do you mean by fees?
Are there fees that you have to pay to the state, or do you?
Oh, no, there's no money there. The only money is involved is what you buy for curriculum,
Oh.
what you're buying, your material costs.
So that's what you guys were all saying,
Yes.
in the thing, which curriculum you choose?
Yep. Yeah, because you're buying them. Yep.
Okay, so you don't have to pay anything to the
No,
state
there's
to
no,
do it.
there's no money to the school. You're already paying taxes.
Right. I was like, why aren't they getting us double?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, rock, scissors, paper. I've got this one first. I don't
don't know where it's coming from.
So I'm wondering about working parents. Both me and my husband are working, and for example, I might be able to, for example, work 3 days a week instead of 5, but 12 hours. Do you have families that are in similar situation when they're still homeschooling and?
Trying to think if there's any off the top of my head that I know of. I'm sure there is out there. You know, you can't say that everybody's, you know, especially single parents. There's plenty of single parents out there that are homeschooling. You know, you don't have to homeschool 8 to 5. You can homeschool from 5 to 9. You know,
Right.
you can do it whenever. You know, it's 24 hours a day, 365. So you
Especially that my other children, I mean, my 2 older kids are 14 and 12, so they're.
Yeah. And you know, that you can also set them up with some information. There's a lot of curriculums that, you know, give them like art. Honestly, we are mostly hands off for our high school students. They have something written out for the day and the week. So they have a checklist, so to speak, and they just go and do it. And I check on them sometimes once a day, sometimes once a week, and do it. But at that age, they're pretty self-sufficient. They should be able to look at a checklist, and that's the advantage of homeschooling. They should be able to do it themselves, you know, with guidance. Did or can? There are some what they call co-ops. They started to go by the wayside now, but I don't. Do you know where I'm getting this feedback from? Is it me? Okay. Where was I? Co-ops. So you can. There, I think, is Rome still has one. Yeah, I don't. Co-ops may not even happen this year because of obvious reasons, but there used to be one in New Hartford, but since a group we go to called Classical Christian Academy started, everybody that went to that is now in that group. So there was nobody left to perform a co-op. And we have, a co-op takes a lot of help. Every parent needs to be able to teach a subject or teach a class, and it's very hard to organize unless you have a lot of willing people. And unfortunately, at this time, we only have a few willing people, and it doesn't put much of a co-op together. You get towards Rome, Edmonston, Leah, I think, has a co-op that does some other things. But unfortunately, right now, the only thing that is available is Classical Christian Academy, which that, unfortunately, because of COVID, got canceled this year, so that's not even available until possibly next year. But, yeah, Leah can't, Mohawk Valley Leah has been known for our soccer group. We always have huge turnout for soccer, but we have gotten the kibosh from New York State Leah. We can't have that. So there won't be any soccer this year. And field trips are kind of limited to places that are allowing groups of any size. So it's hard. This year, it's really going to be hard with co-ops. Unfortunately, we're kind of on our own for at least this school year until things change.
I have a question. I sent all my info to the district, I guess, for the composite score and stuff, but did I have to put in the adequate sentence thing while I did it on his quarterly report? What if I didn't?
Didn't ask for it.
No, they didn't say anything. I was just like, wait, I didn't do that. So even if they do a test, like a standardized test, you still have to put somewhere on the quarterly report or on a separate email?
Quarter report.
At the end of the fourth quarterly report, I have to write that? So, I haven't done that in a while. I need to start doing that, I guess.
Just had a question about honors classes or accelerated classes. My daughter's in 8th grade. She's in 9th grade biology. Is that still a thing?
You just don't call it honors. You're basically by the next. So if she may be 8th grade, but you might buy 9th or 10th grade curriculum.
Well, that's what we're good. But so basically, if she's accelerated, we're buying the next grade up for English and science, and just go. And then technically, units are done sooner, and she's done sooner.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that list of required classes through grades and units, if you can get those units done, if they want to, so-called work night and day, they can graduate at 16, 17,
Thank you.
Speaking of that, at 16 though, you are required through 16 to still file your last reports to the school if you want to get that letter. At 17, you can be done, but compulsory age is from 6 to 16.
Okay, we have one question from Facebook. And it says, I am watching the homeschooling live, have a question. My son will be 6 by December 1st. I was originally planning to enroll him in kindergarten. This is still my intention. What info do I need to include in his IHIP since he will be in kindergarten? Or do I need to enroll him in 1st grade? They're in the Utica School District.
For kindergarten, the only thing that they'll be required is like their patriotism, citizenship, the health, talking about everyday health, your highway safety, bicycle safety type stuff, fire prevention. But as for a requirement, there is no requirement.
Okay, and then will just a real quick, the information packet, is there going to be an online version available that they could reach or contact you all directly to get?
If they email us at mohawkvalleyleah@gmail.com, those that signed up, that sent us an email for the virtual live stream, got emailed a copy. But if they either didn't receive that or something, I have it on the computer, I can forward.
So before we leave tonight, if we could post up that email address one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, I owe some questions over here. You're next, I guess.
Two quick questions. One, the 250 plus hours per quarter requirement, is that in stone? Do you have to do that many each quarter, or can you take like a light quarter and a heavy quarter?
You can do that amongst yourself, but I would write it in your quarter reports as 250 plus.
Okay.
I wouldn't. When you write this up, I would write that like basically that top quarter of the page doesn't change other than the date. I never change that. So I just go in and change whatever we did for math and maybe a grade difference or something. But I just leave that 250 hours. If you want to decide you're going to cram in 3 months and then take a vacation for a month or something like that, that's totally up to you. But I would just still, as per your requirements, I would just state that you're doing 250 plus hours in each quarter. So you can divvy that up however you feel. It's all, the paperwork is really all a technicality. They want to see certain things on there, and that's the way they want to see it. So how you go about and do it, just because, you would just create confusion amongst all the people looking at that when they see, well, you did 600 hours here and only 100 hours here, and they would start questioning that and whatnot. So I would just leave it as a simple thing and do as you like and how it suits your family.
Okay, thank you. And the other one, I know we were talking about how there's no co-ops or anything going on this year, but are there like Facebook groups or something where people can talk amongst themselves, or they can coordinate maybe a field trip with someone else, or?
There are several. The one thing I will advise is that they are not, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say sanctioned, but that's what keeps coming to my head.
Insured
Yeah, they're not New York State LEA, anything we do as a group, we are 100% insured. Liability, medical, anything that, through our group. So if Mohawk Valley LEA, if through our website, we organize a field trip and we go to that field trip, we are covered as a group 100% liability. Some of these homeschool groups, plus they tend to give misinformation. It's hearsay or what they like or what they, sometimes I've read through them and the information is totally wrong. And they're steering people in wrong directions because they don't know any different. There are plenty of them on Facebook. I would stick to ones that are regulated. We have Mohawk Valley LEA has a Facebook page, but it is a closed group, so it's only open to our members. So if you become a LEA member, then you have access to that page. Yep.
I have a question about if your child wants to return and how to set them up in those regards. This is my public school teacher brain working here. Okay, so imagine that my child decides, I want to return to public school. And I say, that's great, Beth. You're gonna be in 11th grade and you haven't taken your Regencies. Is there a way for them to sit for the Regents? Do you know if there's a legal standard that we can use so that they can sit for the Regencies? I remember, I'm maybe dating myself, but back in the 80s, I remember that the homeschool kids could come in and take the Regents. They couldn't get the diploma, but they could take the Regents so that they could show their transcripts to colleges. Colleges are kind of on a case-by-case when you're homeschooled, so you really need to understand that as well, and I think we all need to think about that if you have older kids. I'm not saying your kids can't go to college. You all know they can. They can go to community college, but or a Christian college, but a lot of colleges won't take a homeschooled student. You really have to work hard to get your kid in there. And you don't have those scores. You don't have the Regents diploma. So you really need to think about that. So my daughter's in 8th grade. If she goes into 9th grade, goes back to public school, she'll take her biology Regents. But Mike, she's not in advanced anything. So I guess if school's open and your child is advanced and you want her to have a Regents diploma, they can't. Okay, so I remember this conversation. So we all need to think about that if you're planning with the older kids to send them back to school.
I'll reiterate, you do not receive a diploma other than we bought one online. It's fake. We gave it to our daughter. It says you graduated Alicia Academy. It's a memento. It serves no purpose. But your letter of intent from your school is basically your diploma. You got to check with your colleges. Some accept them. Most accept them. Some, like I said, from state colleges down, you shouldn't have any problems. That's when you get into private schools and
Although that's not true either, because those are on a case-by-case basis as well.
It's all merit-based, a lot of it, so.
Drew and Kelly, if I could.
Yep.
We've, as Laura said, we've been homeschooling for 27 years. We have 13 kids. Our first 8 have graduated from college, whether it's been UAlbany or SUNY Poly, HCCC, all of them graduated from HCCC. So it is possible to be done. There are sometimes you'll get more pushback depending on the school district you're in. But the letter of equivalency is paramount. It is very important to keep very good records when you're in high school so that you're able to easily get that letter of equivalency from your district superintendent and work directly with the superintendent We've had very good success in the Frankfurt School District, the New Hartford School District, and the Secoit School District. So, you know, every district is different, but all of this is possible. So,
Does anybody have high school students that are getting close to graduation? One note on that letter of equivalency: when you do ask for it from your superintendent, make sure you get several original copies, because the school is going to take it and want to keep it. So when our school district gave us one, he gave us like 5 copies, all originals, all signed in ink, and sent them to us. So just make sure that some may not know that, so just ask them for several original copies of the letter, because the schools take it. Yes.
So to follow up on what she was saying, as far as regents and that kind of thing, what would happen if a kid homeschools for just like a year? How does that transition back into homeschool or into public school go?
It's
Based
usually pretty simple. You may think that they're losing out, but in all honesty, you will notice that they're probably going to have learned more in the year they've been home than they would have if they were in school.
So
a lot of people think that they've been home for a year and they're going to go back to school and they're going to be behind all the other kids, and usually it's the complete opposite.
Right, so they might be ahead and
Yeah.
redo things.
Yeah.
Okay. And as far as keeping the reports, how long do you keep them? Like, is it possible to be audited from the school and ask for something from
I mean,
a year ago?
I suppose
or-
you probably could, but you're sending them to the school, so the school should have the records. But in all honesty, I have 0 paper. It's all on my computer. Everything that we do gets emailed, and I always ask in my email for a confirmation that they received them and that they were able to open all the attachments. So I just send them a little blurb saying, here are, second quarter reports for such and such children. Find them attached, and I've got them attached at the bottom, and they always send me back something that says, great, got them, they're all good, thank you. So, yeah.
we have a Facebook question. This is from Alyssa. How do you find out what level of achievement you should meet for each grade level, based on the standardized tests or what? Based on the standardized tests or what? So for example, what would my child need to achieve in geography for grade 1?
It's a little tricky. It's hard in younger years, but once again, there's where HSLDA comes in play, because they have a lot on their website that tells you what's required for each grade level. There's surprisingly more information on there than you think, than just legal things. But where was I going with that question? What was the question again?
How do we determine what the appropriate grade
I mean,
level is?
younger years, it's not as needed. When you get to the older school kids, they have pre-tests for a lot of standardized tests. Like you can take a pre-CAT test. A lot of curriculums will have pre-tests. So like you can go to Saxon's website or Matthew C's website, and they do a little pre-test. That's 20, 40, 50 questions, whatever, and based on the results, they'll give you a recommended grade level. There's a lot of things out there that'll give you suggestions on where to go with that.
You can simply say that's satisfactory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, next question.
Okay, I have a few questions. Sorry. I missed one of the bullets, and it said in the third quarter, inform your district what assessment you'll be using? Because then it was standardized test or written assessment.
Which under which heading?
It's right above. It says in the third quarter, inform your district what blank you will use.
Annual assessment.
Annual assessment. Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
But speaking on that, our district has asked us to submit that now with my IHEP, and I do not.
Okay.
I will note in there, I haven't decided. I will give you my standardized whatever I'm going to do in my third quarter when I
Okay.
make that decision.
I'll tell you the reason for that, especially like April time. What's the name of the company we use?
Academic excellence.
Academic Excellence is where we get our CAT tests from. And especially April time, they'll start to throw out sales. So a $50 test now costs me $20. And I've actually had them even less than that. So I'm not going to tell you now because I may find out that, okay, the pass test is $5 this year. Well, guess what? I'm going to the pass test or whatever it may be. So I don't make that decision until the time comes to take the test. Okay. So there's nothing in the state regulations that says that they have to know that now. But we just tell them we're going to give it to you in the third quarter, even though they ask for it.
Okay, so I know the miss up there, she asked the question about if you decide to homeschool and then you decide that it's not working, they can just go back the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if, say, for example, somebody sent their kid to school and then they wanted to homeschool? Can you just take them out the next day too? You don't need the 14 days?
You could keep them home. It'd be anything. It'd be just like if they were sick.
Okay.
You could keep them home and say, okay, you're not going to go to school tomorrow. You don't want to go anymore. You stay home. You got 14 days to figure out how you're going to do it, and then and then you send your letter of intent to the school, and then that's how they know that their attendance is not required at school anymore.
Okay. And I just wanted to say, so I live in Ilion, and there's an ASO program,
Mhm.
and they do accept, there is an actual spot where you can pick homeschool.
Mhm.
So I have friends from Frankfurt, and they homeschool, and they're actually playing
Yeah, because
with-
ASO is not a school sport.
Right, but I just
So-
want to say, like, people,
Yep.
anyone around here, in case they
Yep.
wanted to get their kids in
Like
sports
Pop
right now.
Warner, same
Pop
thing.
Warner.
Yeah,
because
it's
you
going
pay
on right
for
now,
it.
and the last day to sign up is today at midnight. So, just wanted to let you know. Well, if you want to give your kids go to play soccer.
Any more questions? Oh, right here.
One is a controversial question I might get judged by.
That's all right.
Are vaccinations required for homeschooling in New York
Zero.
City?
We don't do it either. So
So like my son's 5, he's going into kindergarten, you already said it's not required. He's going to Utica School. They are very adamant about kindergarten.
Mhm.
He's due for his third round of vaccinations, I think it would be this year.
Mhm.
He had a reaction before. I kind of want to skip these ones or like maybe wait or
Mhm.
I'm on the fence. I
Nope.
know Utica School requires it. I want to homeschool because of that. I had family judge me for
that is
it.
a big reason why
Yes.
there is a homeschool
So,
community is because of
this whole
vaccination.
COVID that happened actually made all of those family members now okay with me wanting to homeschool. So now that I've decided to do it, and he's only 5 and in kindergarten, and it basically,
Yeah.
like, what do I do? Do I just find a curriculum to keep him on track so that when he gets to first grade, then I start doing all the assessments
I mean,
July
it's
1st?
it's completely up to you. You could leave well enough alone for this year, or you could include it as activities that he wouldn't even, or they wouldn't even know are.
So he's already placed at Albany Street School in Utica. He already went through a pre-K in Utica, so like they already know his name, they already know he's registered. Now, did not send my letter of intent yet, so when I do, and they come back at me, because I was told by multiple people that Utica is being very rude about the kindergarten, like they're requiring it.
Yeah.
So you just said it's not required.
It's not required,
So
and
I'm
if
gonna
you
sign
keep
up
if
for
you
it.
keep getting pushback, I would send them a letter and tell them that you're rescinding your registration and you're going to keep your child home with intentions of homeschooling, in first grade, and but I'm not required by New York State law to report until first grade, until 6 years old.
Okay.
So I will not be reporting till next year. And if they send you back something after that, then that's where I would call HSLDA to get their advice.
Exactly. Can't emphasize enough how important, if you're going to go down the road of homeschooling, linking up with HSLDA. It is a 1-800 number to legal advice, and they will let you know where you stand. and they will fight the fight for you. And normally a call from HSLDA
Is all it takes.
settles
Stops
everything.
every school district in their tracks, yep.
Okay. Next question?
Regarding the HSLDA, is there a deadline to sign up for that? So, in other words, if God forbid something happens, would it then be too late to utilize their services?
They don't go retrospect, but, I mean, I have heard that some things, they might, small things they might, but, you can't wait till you get sued or something to call them, because then it's kind of too late. I mean, they would still help you, but I don't know what at what cost. But it's kind of like an insurance policy, it's right around $100, just over $100 with the discount for the membership. So it's kind of like I don't want to say no-brainer because that's rude, but I highly recommend it. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish. Yeah.
If I were to do this, if I were to homeschool long-term, I would say absolutely it's a no-brainer. But in my situation where it may be just for this year or perhaps even for half the year, do you foresee a lot of circumstances where they're needed if I follow, all the guidelines that you had suggested?
This particular year, I really do think
so.
there's going to be a lot of pushback from your schools.
Okay.
Because they're trying to get they're losing money left and right, I think, because of all this, and they're trying to gather it the best they can. You don't like to think of it, but school is a business, and they're trying to secure their money the best they can. I would, I know it may seem expensive up front, but if something does happen, even if the answer to one question is to me worth it, but they are there at your disposal 24/7.
Hi. It was kind of touched on earlier. If you're using kind of a hodgepodge for your curriculum and not any specific for a certain area, for instance, health, if we're just reading through different anatomy books and not using any particular curriculum, I can figure out how to word like the art and the PE, but if it's like health, for instance, if I'm just doing a variety of different sources, how would you word that on the IHIP?
I would just write the various activities, the various books, may include, but not limited to, and make sure that is put in there.
Okay.
Because I don't, for health, I only list various activities, various books that we will be reading, but this is not set in stone.
A lot of times it's various library books. That's my IHIP.
My curriculum is all over the place. I do not have a box curriculum.
Okay, next question will be from the gentleman passing through Detroit.
This is just a consideration. I think everyone, many people who are considering this are in this boat because of the COVID, and it's a nationwide, worldwide issue. I think something else we have to consider is this isn't going to go away right away, and it's not a one and done thing, I don't think. So this is a God thing. I think this is where we have to rely on God for direction year by year, month by month. Do I homeschool for the duration of her school from age 14 on, or go back in 2 years if and when things stabilize? Because this is like the Spanish flu. It's going to make its rounds for another year or two. So that's just something for all of us to consider and pray about. Thank you very much.
Got one over here.
She's trying to pull rank. Oh my goodness. Very excited over it.
This is in regards to the LOI we had touched on right at the very beginning. You mentioned they should be sending their letter of intent by July 1st. You said we can touch on this later. I know that New York State changed it to August 1st because of COVID, but as new homeschoolers, I heard that you don't have to comply with the August 1st date. Can we just touch on like that information?
That's where that whatever days after it's written there.
14 days.
You've got 14 days upon commencement of homeschooling. So they don't know when you commenced homeschooling. That's traditional. That's when they would like it. So like if you're a career homeschooler, you know, we send in our reports or our letters of intents or whatever it is by that date, because we are coming into it from previous year. New homeschoolers are going to be sending that letter of intent whenever they decide to, you know, public school starts, whatever, September 8th, September 7th, you decide they're not going tomorrow. You've got 14 days from that day to send in a letter of intent.
Okay.
So that's why I said don't let that date scare you off the bat because it's already passed. It's only pertains to previous, you know. So like if you homeschool this year, then next year, if you're going to continue in by July, you're going to send in another letter of intent to the school.
Okay.
Sure you still want to?
Okay, I know a lot of people are talking about, you know, re-entering their kids into public school. What is the process? Are they taking a test to see what grade they're going into, or are they just taking your word
No,
for it?
they want them
Second
back.
grade?
Plus, they've gotten your quarter reports if you've been in it for more than a quarter. But they may ask you questions, but they'd be more than glad to have the bus stop out front to take them back. And at least I haven't heard of any re-entering issues.
Okay, so you're saying that homeschoolers are typically ahead of
Oh yeah,
public school.
almost always. But
So what would be the process if you do an entire year, but your child's a year ahead? Would they be able to enter a year ahead? Your
that
school
was
district
yeah,
is
school-
going to place your child where they believe they should be, and then they will probably work with you if they feel that, all right, well, your kid's already gone through pre-algebra. Well, then they may send them in that 7th grade year up to algebra because that's where they feel that they can thrive.
Yeah. Probably similar to an honors type situation. If they were already in school, they see that they can, it may take a few weeks in regular math, but if they can, talk to their math teacher, and the math teacher is usually the ones who make the recommendation for the next, okay, they need to be in a different class as they're sitting idle here because it's below them.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is there a point where the school districts could actually say, we're not going to take your child into the public school system anymore? Or are they always legally bound
Always
to
legally.
take them in?
Unless you're past due on your taxes, but no. No, they have to.
So my one son is going to be in 2nd grade. Now, he's an October baby, so he did start kindergarten 4 turning 5. So this 5 turning 6, he was in 1st. So I have another son. So say, for example, I homeschool him, and I go the route that I went with my other son, and he's 4 turning 5, and we're in kindergarten. 5 turning 6, he's in 1st, but I don't have to report that because he's not 6 yet. But then when am I going to report 1st grade? Or do I have to start reporting 1st because I'm doing 1st? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would report him via age.
Okay.
And then your IHIP would show the curriculum based off of what you're...
Okay, and probably I should save the whole 1st grade.
I would state it, for at least the first year, I would state it as 1st grade. There's been, with our oldest daughter, if they're excelling, there's been times where we've, on our IHIPs, we've slashed a year, they're gonna do 10/11. That's what their grade level is, because they're, you know, we had ones that they may be excelling in some subjects per grade level, but not others.
Right.
So that's where
So
we
you
would-
wouldn't report the 5 turning 6 in the first grade? You would completely wait?
I would wait till they are of age.
Okay. And then it would
when
just
they-
start at
when
second
they-
grade?
When they are, I might report them as first grade, but on the IHIP, I would show the curriculum based off of what you're.
Wait, say
so-
that, I'm sorry, that confused me. Say that one
So
more time.
if you're, yeah, so like our youngest son, his math is like way above the way it should be. He takes it like that, so he's technically what, 4th grade?
I report our son as 4th grade.
But he's doing 6th grade
but
math.
he is doing 6th grade work.
Okay. But I mean, so more so to cover, so say I restarted reporting it, but then I decided, you know, okay, second grade, I want to send him now. But then they don't think I even did first grade. You know what that's where I'm.
Yeah, I kind of
Just kind of those, I'm just seeing, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in a couple.
You kind of got the loophole.
Because it's.
You would have to probably discuss that with your school district.
Okay.
That's going to be a case-by-case basis, I would
Yeah,
guess.
just thinking that, because I
cut
do
in
already have a
stone
son that
thing there.
age, so I don't.
Yeah.
We might be in that same predicament.
But yeah, that would be a case-by-case. If you were to send them back, say, you know, he's testing here, he is technically of age to could, you know, especially if they have record that he's been there for kindergarten.
Right,
you know.
because right now, he's age eligible for pre-K.
Yeah.
But he's 3, you know, and I just don't really have the heart to send him all day. I don't know, it's so confusing. So that's why if I ended up going this and then we did go back, it's like, well, I don't want to have them say, well, he's got to do first grade over again.
No, yeah.
When we already
it's-
did it.
Like I said, it's going to be, what school district are you?
CVA.
I think they're pretty easygoing for
Yeah.
as far as I know. But
I'll probably just keep everything recorded.
yeah, I would, you know, maybe even a conversation ahead of time to ask the
Yeah.
superintendent. I don't.
Okay.
It's completely up to him
Okay, thanks.
or her.
So I have a question about the colleges and entry to the colleges. My kids would qualify for the free tuition from Utica College.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about Utica College and how the process with them is?
No, I don't. Do you? I've heard that it exists, but I do not know any of the information. The only program that I am familiar with is MVCC's. Now, is this an early program, or is this once they've graduated?
Once they graduated.
Oh.
Yeah, like the undergrad.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the program, unfortunately. I can't speak of it, but, you know, like I said, the only one that I do know of is the College Connections.
So, for example, like GE, like if they would need GED or some type of test, I'm you know, I'm from
You
Poland,
can,
so-
but that's where the letter of equivalency should suffice for Utica College for entrance. I would, if they don't, I would push back for it. The last thing I would want to do is, I mean, it's kind of like a smack in the face to tell your kids you got to take a GED after you know,
Right.
because it's, you know, it's not looked upon as the same as a diploma. It just ends up being a technicality to get in. But I don't think, especially for Utica College, it would be needed. I would assume that they would take that letter of equivalency. But it's basically your diploma. Anything that your diploma should get you in, would get you into, that letter should get you into. So I haven't really heard of anybody where it hasn't worked. I have heard of things where it's been difficult to get it to work, but I haven't heard of any where they've outright said no.
And another question would be the foreign language. If the kids speak another language at home, would that qualify for the language requirement?
I would think so. You just have to kind of fudge it in there as time and
Because that would not be including like the testing, like the.
no, foreign language is not even required by New York State regulations. It's considered an elective. So like where it says you have 3 electives in high school, you could put that down as 1 or 2 of them. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're We're going to do one more question online, and then we're going to close this formal session. Drew and Kelly are going to stick around. Laura and myself will stick around to answer anybody's questions. So you don't want to feel anybody's is held here. Anyway, online, April is asking, if you have a special needs child who was in BOCES classroom, do you need to send a letter of intent to the school district and BOCES? And then it's a part two. For example, my 4th grader in Westmoreland, my 1st grader went to an 812 classroom in Waterville.
I believe it would have to go through your school district because they are the ones that set up the BOCES for that child. So I believe it would just have to go to your
I'm not even
homeschool.
sure how BOCES is working this year.
Well, and I know both.
I know that the traditional BOCES is not even going to happen this year. For the
Their
the
special
career-
eds, I believe, are
the
still
special ed,
happening.
I would think that they would have to, but I'm not 100% sure on that answer.
But I would say you'd probably be safe as a default to always go through the school district first.
They always, even if they tell you to go through BOCES, I would double it up and do both.
Roger that.
Always do the superintendent, even if the superintendent tells you not to, because it's a cover your butt, because that's the way New York State says you are required to do it.
Okay. So, want to wrap this up. Again, I want to thank everybody. I know it's been a little warm in here. It's been more than a little warm in here. But I really appreciate everybody coming out, asking questions. Again, Drew and Kelly will be here. Laura and myself will be here. Feel free to ask any questions. We'll stay as long as people have questions. So,
thank you.
With that, thanks everybody for coming. And good luck this year.